So I've never been a heavy drinker, but I have been a frequent drinker. I get free alcohol where I work as a bartender. I don't steal it. I literally get it for free as a perk of being an employee. My dad also makes wine just as a hobby, so I'm literally surrounded by free alcohol. The problem comes in where I'm like, well, I can drink because I get it for free. What's the harm? Over and over and over again, and then now we're here where I'm like, I need to take a break. So my history with alcohol, I didn't drink in high school. I didn't drink before I was 21 really. Every now and then I would, but nothing too crazy. Well, I don't know. We did smash a few Four Locos in the club parking lot before we went in when I was like 19, but it was like every weekend. So maybe I did drink a little bit more. I've just never been a heavy drinker, but I would consistently drink on the weekends and sometimes during the week. I've never had the normal like 8 to 5, 9 to 5 grind and then like drink on the weekends. That's just never been my norm, and my drinking habits have reflected that. Granted, those things never got as bad as they did once I started getting free alcohol from my work. What I'm trying to say is I'm 29 now and I've pretty much consistently drank through my 20s, but I've never really drank heavy because I get really bad hangovers. I always have, especially when I drink liquor. So I've just never really been into drinking super heavily. I've wanted to do this channel for a very long time. I've done other YouTube channels in the past about other things. I've had TikTok accounts and I've done the content creation thing a few times over, and it just never went anywhere, and I never stayed consistent with it, and I never really put the effort into it that I am putting into this channel. I really started looking at the way I spent my time. I work around alcohol full time. I picked up a second job as a bartender. At least 40 hours a week I'm around alcohol, and alcohol is in my hands. Granted, I'm not drinking it at that time, but I'm around it. Family all drinks. My friends all drink. I started thinking about how much time I waste drinking. I started thinking about how long I'm at work after my shift having a beer with my coworkers. And while that's nice social time, it's still time that's taken out of my sleep schedule. I like to wake up early in the mornings. I like to walk my dog early in the mornings. When I would stay late at work and I would drink, I would lose my morning time. I would lose an hour or two in the morning because I didn't feel well, or I just slept in because I stayed up late, or I slept really poorly because I drank, and so on and so on. So I would lose days even when I wasn't drinking. And then when I was drinking, I would drink on my off days because like that's my weekend, but it's the middle of the week. My entire life, all my hobbies, everything revolved around drinking. And I knew that that lifestyle wasn't something I could sustain if I wanted to really focus on YouTube. I've been actively trying to lose body fat off and on for about 2 years, and I really struggled staying consistent in the gym. I struggled staying consistent with my diet because I would drink, and then drinking would lead to binging episodes. I wasn't taking care of myself, and in hindsight, like my trying to lose weight was like me trying about 70% of the time because of drinking. And I mean, that's not a catalyst to lose weight. So like what? I was having hormonal issues to the point where I was really worried that something was wrong. My sleep was being affected in a really bad way, as I was able to see by my watch. And it just came to a point where I knew something had to give. I had worked really hard to get myself from a point of being okay to good in my life. I've been doing the work and I've come really far on myself as a person. And I tried so many times to find a balance and to find whatever this thing is called moderation with alcohol, and it just couldn't work. It was not working for me. So I just decided to give it a complete break. For the past 6 months or so, I have been heavily listening to other creators and podcasts talk about being alcohol free. All of these really influential people that have essentially helped me to get to where I am today. And then I started looking at smaller creators talking about this. And literally for about 6 months, I've been paying attention and I've been reading the literature and listening to what other people are saying about this. I really had the desire to go on a sobriety journey. Like, I aspire to be one of those like only special occasion drinkers, meaning like once or twice a year kind of thing. Alcohol is just not something I want in my life, and I've thought about it for a while. I think this will be kind of a little journey, and I miss creating content. Part of the reason why I want to give up substances is because I don't create content whenever I am like actively using them. Even if I don't like have a really, really bad problem with them or anything, I just don't create whenever I'm not creative whenever I use substances. Another reason why I want to give up alcohol, I don't follow through with my good habits whenever I have access to any kind of substance use. I don't keep up with the gym because I'm always tired or feeling groggy. I don't sleep well, and then I just eat crap food, and I'm more likely to binge eat, which is something that I've had a problem with since I was a kid. I don't keep up my good habits. I don't really have desire or ambition to do better, or I do, and then I get overwhelmed by how I'm not doing better because I'm using substances, and then I use more substances. So yeah, it's just time. It's time to let it go, and I have too much potential to not do my best to achieve it. So I'm gonna do just that. And I actually even had a goal not to drink for the entirety of 2024. And then I kept making excuses about why not drinking for an entire year was like lofty or unobtainable. In hindsight, one of the excuses is just so silly. I'm gonna go ahead and share it. So I was seeing this guy. We were on paper almost perfectly compatible. It was weird. One of the things that the guy and I had in common were that we liked to go to local breweries. And so I was afraid that if I quit, we wouldn't have that in common anymore, which valid. Without going into too much detail, we parted ways with the idea that we might come back together one day and try again. I still, even when we weren't speaking, I still didn't want to take a break from alcohol because of the possibility that we might come back together one day. Might. It's not even a guarantee. Like, I was still afraid to quit because we would lose this commonality and we're not even speaking. Like, in hindsight, that's so silly. And like, it's so silly for me to have let that hold me back and not do this thing that's good for me. You know, I'm a recovered people pleaser and recovered codependent person in relationships, and I've been working really hard on it. And I'm not going to, you know, shame myself for the decisions that I've made, but that is one where now looking back on it, I can be like, oh, there's some flaw in that logic there, sister. To humble me further, I even told some of my friends about my goal of not using alcohol in 2024. And my friend and coworker, Lucas, I don't know if he watches these, but hello, if you do. I hope you're doing well. I miss you, buddy. I poured myself a beer after work one night. And again, I'm a bartender and I get free beer. So I just poured myself one after work, and I had told myself that I can have beer as a celebration. And somebody that had been harassing me at work finally got fired, and so I was celebrating that. Lucas walked up after I poured myself a beer and I started sipping it. He was like, Lauren, I thought you weren't drinking. Like, I've literally cut back on what I've been drinking because you inspired me to. Like, what the I don't know if it's like slight masochism or what, but I enjoy being humbled from time to time. And especially when it's somebody that cares about me and somebody that knows me well. Because like, for context, I've been single for a very long time, and there are not many people that see the shadow aspects of myself and the things that I struggle with, because I'm like hyper independent and I don't really let people in like that. For someone to see that and call me out on it was really impactful. I actually texted him like the next day and thanked him for calling me out because I needed it. So being humbled by my friend and slowly realizing that my excuses held water quite like mesh, I decided it was time. Entire backstory to say that I genuinely felt like alcohol was holding me back. So I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna give it a break. I'm gonna see if it is actually the metaphorical straitjacket that it feels like it is. And I didn't know what my goal was. I recognized the importance of taking it one day at a time, and that's exactly what I did. My 30-day alcohol-free goal was really close to my monetization date goal, like within 5 days. That being said, week 1 was the hardest, understandably. The first couple of days, I was like between those days where I was like, okay, if I
drink today, that puts my monetization goal as the same day as the day 30. That still gives me a couple days of wiggle room. Like, I just kept
spiraling about this, and I kept thinking about prolonging my 30 days. On day 3, I think, I even started pouring myself a beer, and I was just like, no, like, what are you doing? It's time. And so I just gave it to somebody else. Around this time, I also heard the phrase HALT for the first time. HALT is used in addiction recovery groups, and HALT is basically a mindfulness tactic of whenever you feel the urge to consume a substance, you say HALT. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? One of those 4 things, or the desire for a state change, is why we drink, or why we feel triggered to change our state, is generally because of one of those 4 things, or a cue, or whatever. My cue was literally being off work. So I utilized HALT every single time that first week that I had the desire to drink, and it was incredibly helpful. So at the time of starting this challenge, I was going through something pretty heavy emotionally. The guy that I talked about earlier in the video where we decided to part ways, it was like a week after we had the decision, and that was hard. For over 5 years, I haven't been in a real relationship, so I was really having a hard time with this thing not working out the way that I had hoped that it would. So for the first 10 days, the longer I was sober, the louder the loneliness got. For the last 2 years, I've really struggled with the deep biological loneliness of not having a companion. That it's something that's really hard, and it's something that I don't really talk about with anyone other than my therapist. I don't know if you've ever taken a break from drinking or substances, but whenever you do, you feel things bigger for a little while. And when I didn't have alcohol to numb that pain, it was really hard. But luckily, it got a little bit better each day, and after a couple of weeks, I didn't really think about the situation much at all. And at the week 2 mark, I kind of had the realization of it took me so long to give up alcohol because I was afraid of sabotaging this thing. But A, if it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out regardless of if I drink or not. And B, we're not even speaking. Why is that an excuse? Part of what helped that process is that I started this YouTube channel, and I really started to take it seriously. I did a video in the first couple of weeks that performed extremely well for a very new channel and for a brand new creator. So I took that as a sign to really start investing into this channel, investing my time into this channel. So something I forgot to mention is that after the first week, I immediately lost like 6 pounds. I wasn't even trying. I didn't change the way I was eating. I just lost 6 pounds from not drinking. So that was cool. So after the first couple of weeks, and after I instantly dropped weight, it was kind of a breeze. I was reaping the benefits of more energy. My emotions had leveled out. My hormones had leveled out, and things were feeling good. And I was really excited to wake up and do things every day besides go to my job. I would only have the desire to drink like every now and then. Usually when I did want one, it was only because I was at work pouring beers for all the other employees and it was convenient. Maybe 3 weeks in, we had an experience with an especially unruly customer who was screaming at me, and he was saying some really awful things, and I was honestly kind of afraid that he would follow me home and that he would try to harm me after work, and that he would because he had to be kicked out and got banned from the restaurant and all kinds of stuff. So I was genuinely afraid for my safety after dealing with this guy, and dealing with that sober was also not fun because I struggle with obsessive compulsive thoughts, and I have always been a chronic checker to make sure everything's locked over and over and over again. And oh my God, did I forget this time? Did something happen? And all these things. So dealing with that was really difficult, and I considered drinking, and then I kind of had this moment where I was like, that's not gonna help though. And if I am drinking, I'm not going to be clear. If something does happen, if he does follow me home and figure out where I live, and he does break into my house and try to hurt me, if I'm under the influence, I'm not going to be able to fight him off as easily. I'm not going to be able to, all of these things. I was genuinely rationalizing with myself of why alcohol was not going to fix this. And they were all very valid points. It wasn't just, it won't fix it. It's going to happen if it's going to happen. Like, I was like having to really rationalize it. Well, I didn't have to, but I did. And really after that, I didn't have much of a desire to drink at all until day 30. I found out that an acquaintance of mine died of cancer. He was a very lovely guy, and it brought the question to my mind of, if I were to get a cancer diagnosis, what would I do? Like, how would I want to live my life? Essentially, I would want to really uproot my life and live it almost completely differently. That was really tough to deal with emotionally. Not only the loss of someone that was a beautiful light in this world, but also bringing up all of these things and like really having to face your own mortality, which is something that I'm not inexperienced with, because I think I've lived my life in a way that, if I died 10 years from now, would I be happy with it? But I didn't think about the fact that I could get a terminal illness and it would still change the trajectory of my life. That's not dying suddenly. That's knowing that it might be coming and having to live with that. And I never really thought about it like that before. It just kind of brought the question to mind of like, why am I doing this if I hate it so much? And why do I spend so much time on it if I hate it so much? Then day 30 fell on an extremely busy Friday night, and we were really short-staffed that night as well. And I was already kind of in a tough mental state because of the heavy questions that were on my mind. I essentially spent the entire shift pissed off and ready to leave, and just literally ready to walk out of that job and never look back. And I'm never like that. I've never that irritated. I just don't live my life in a mental state like that. I lead my entire life with gratitude, and so for me to feel like that, I knew it was a big feeling. So that night when things were like super busy mid-shift, every time I poured a beer, I would think, man, I really want one of these today. Again, I'm a bartender, so that every time I poured a beer was like every 45 seconds. And then finally the end of the shift came. I was just so ready to leave that I didn't want to spend any longer there than I had to, and I didn't drink. Okay, sorry if this is like noisy and wobbly and annoying, but I really had to refilm this because I was so tired towards the end of filming yesterday that none of it sounded good and it was a nightmare to edit. My big lessons and takeaways: use HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Ask yourself that as a regular mindfulness practice whenever you feel the need to do a behavior that is counterproductive towards your goals, and that is something that you're really either wanting to stop or something that you're wanting to change. Use HALT. It was so helpful during this experiment, and I genuinely think it'll be helpful for the rest of my life. Also, the importance of crafting hobbies that don't involve alcohol. It is so easy, especially if you work in the service industry like me, it is so easy to get caught up in the trap of my work involves alcohol, my friend involves alcohol, my family involves alcohol, my this and that and everything else just involves alcohol, and it's ingrained in our society. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but just being mindful of it is super important. And two, not replacing that time that you used to spend drinking just with your phone and social media, because that is also not great. I don't say that from a shaming perspective, but think of social media as like a drug in itself, like alcohol, or a substance rather. Think of it as an addictive behavior like gambling or whatever. There is the same possibility with social media that you could potentially harm your life as you would with maybe gambling or with like overeating or any addiction. There are chances that it will cause harm, and I think it should be treated as such, and I think we should be mindful of it as such. But all that to say, try not to replace all of your time with that when you do stop drinking. One thing that really helped me in this is that I cut out social media at the same time, so that was very helpful. Another takeaway from going alcohol free for 30 days is that holy cow, that stuff is an energy zapper. Like, it's insane how much energy it just took from me and how much time I spent doing it. Even when I wasn't actively drinking, I spent so much time being involved with alcohol in some capacity. It was just too much. And I spent way too much time drinking, and I spent too much time involving myself with alcohol that once I stopped, I got so much time back. It's really incredible to me that I have so much time now, it feels like. Like, one thing that held me back from doing YouTube for so long was that I was afraid I wouldn't have the time to do it. The crazy thing is, I'm working more now than I was when I felt like I didn't have the time. And I'm cooking more now than I was when I felt like I didn't have the time. And I'm spending more time on hobbies now than I did when I didn't feel like I had the time. What that all boils down to is alcohol wasted so much of my time. I spent so much less time procrastinating, and I actually just did things. There was so much less resistance to like just doing the things that I needed to do. And this also is, I think, because I cut out social media at the same time. And I was just like, wow. Like, I had a moment the other day. I think it was like the night that I wrote this script. I didn't have that part in there yet. Like, I was tired and I was watching something. It was like 10 o'clock and I was like, I think I'm gonna go to bed. And I turned the TV off after one episode. And I have always been a chronic binge watcher of TV shows, and when I'm hesitant to start one because I will spend far too much time doing it, and I'm just so much less likely to do that now. It's so much easier to have impulse control with stuff like that. Just in general, I'm so much more mindful of like everything, and I'm so much more mindful of how I spend my time, and it's just really cool. It's really exciting and it's really nice. Okay, another thing is the less I have alcohol, the less I want it. Like, whenever what the heck is she doing? Whenever like I've gone several days without drinking, I really don't want it as much other than that. But whenever I drink, like, I don't know, maybe 2 days in a row, let's say it's like Friday, Saturday, then I'm more likely to want one on Sunday. And then I'll just be like, what's one more day? You know, so the less I have it, the less I experience that. And the less mental bandwidth I have to spend on it, because it just doesn't exist in my life. That's really nice. Mosquitoes are getting me. So now what? Well, I don't know. And that's okay. No, for real though, I will never have alcohol in my life the way that it was ever again. I don't want to. To tell you the truth, I don't even want to bartend anymore. And I realized about an hour ago that part of the reason I strongly dislike bartending is because I'm not actually helping anyone. And I was listening to a video a couple days ago about someone else's experience getting sober, and she had been a bartender for about a decade. She talked about how could see that what she was doing was like enabling somebody to essentially destroy their life. And I get that. Like, I relate to that because same. I know someone that was in a really bad car accident in the last 6 months because they were drinking and driving, and they still drink. And it was not a customer. It was not somebody that I overserved, and I had nothing to do with the situation, but I just know this person, and it was really sad to see. And it's really sad to see that they still choose to do the behaviors that nearly got them killed. As a bartender, I'm tired of it, because even if I don't overserve someone, and I'm always very careful of that, knowing that my enablement of those behaviors could lead to somebody being killed is awful. I hate having that on my mind. Right now I'm kind of in a state of now what? It's scary and it's a hard state to be in, but that's just where I am in my life, and I'm genuinely hoping that I can make a living from this soon, so I can contribute to the world, and I can, you know, help the world and also pay my bills from it. And that being said, like, I don't think I'll give up alcohol forever. There are a few places that I'd love to go to. Like, I really want to go to Bar Vegan. It's affiliated with Slutty Vegan. Same owner, like Pinky Cole created it. And I love Pinky Cole. I think she is incredible, and she's really inspirational to me. I also want to check out Broad's Lounge in Chattanooga, because if I remember correctly, Broad's is owned by the same people that have Cashew in Chattanooga, and Cashew is like a vegan like cafe and bakery. There are these places that I want to support and I want to still support like local craft breweries and things like that, because where I live there are a lot of them. So all that to say, I don't think I'll cut it out forever, but it will never be in my life like it was. The benefits that I've seen from cutting it out of my life, for the most part, far outweigh any benefits that I had from drinking. I'm one of those people that like drinking kind of winds me up. It gives me energy, and I had a lot of fun. So yeah, I won't cut out alcohol forever, I don't think. I don't know, I may get out of the bartending business and decide that I never want to touch it again. And that's okay too. I don't, like, the one thing that I really learned through this challenge is that it's so easy for me to fall into an all or nothing mindset. And that's kind of what brought me to this challenge, was that all or nothing mindset. And I was in the nothing phase. It took me going through and successfully doing the nothing phase, because I've honestly never done that before. It took me going through the nothing to realize that it doesn't have to be that. Also, another takeaway is that, like, in dating, that is going to be drastically different from now on. I kind of talked about this in my weird reasons to go vegan video, I think, about like dating and veganism and stuff like that. But also alcohol with that. Alcohol can really create a false sense of connectedness, and when you're both feeling a certain way and your guard is down and it's silly and you're having fun and you're laughing, that's really fun in the moment, but it's not a clear picture of what the rest of your lives can look like together. And if that's what you're going for, like if that's your intention behind dating, then I think it's kind of unwise to use alcohol in a lot of your first several dates. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I think it can be a slippery slope into something that's actually not that great, and you don't know it because you can't see it, because you have the fog of alcohol clouding your judgment. And yeah, so alcohol will never be involved in my dating life like it used to be. I will probably drink with somebody on a date from time to time, but it will never be in the first 3 dates anymore. I think that's going to help find the right person for me. If you are thinking about doing an alcohol-free challenge, I encourage you to do it, for real. I really encourage it. And if you are at a point in drinking that it can be potentially medically risky to come off of it cold turkey, and you need medical assistance with that, there is no shame in that. Everybody is where they are, and as long as we're actively trying to grow and be better, that's what matters. Even if you're not thinking about it and you're just watching this because you like my channel, then think about it because I cannot tell you how many benefits. I could tell you, but we would be here for an hour if I told you all of the benefits I've experienced. But, and if you do want me to go on a more in-depth video about the benefits, just let me know, because I will. But right now I'm on day like 34 or 35. I kind of lost count. I'll drink at some point, but it's not going to be anytime soon. And if you're thinking about doing it, do it. So anyways, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Go sit in the sun, take a lizard bath, and have a good one. I'll see you next time.